Recording progress.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your final class for your library program. Today, we're going to talk about one topic, and then I'm going to review everything else with you. There will also be a review sheet on my site, which will have questions and definitions for you to look at so that it will help you study for your final exam. The final exam will consist of 20 questions. They will be multiple choice. There'll only be one answer for each question. Remember, as in the past, once you finish taking your test, you need to click the complete button and it will be submitted and graded. I want to congratulate all of you on the great scores that you got on your library midterm. That shows that you've been following along very well. And that's great because those skills that you're learning in that class will help you in the future. If you have any questions about your final exam, please contact me. Again, it'll be 20 questions as all final exams are for us, okay? And it will be multiple choice. Do not wait to take the test. Make sure you take the test within 1 week's time because then it will be closed and we'll be submitting the grades over to NIAC, okay? So you don't want any problems with that. Your final exam is worth 40% of your grade. Your midterm exam was worth 40% of your grade. All right, everyone, as long as they're listening, will get their participation or their homework grade, which is 20%. Okay, so today, remember to look at your review sheet that I'm going to post so that you'll have different topics that we've gone over and what they mean and what was important in the lectures. And of course, you can also listen to the lectures again before you take your exam, and that will help you as well. This week, we're going to conclude by talking about footnotes and bibliographies and what they are, why we use them, and where they're located. A footnote is listed at the bottom of a page, okay? And or a page or document, and it indicates something about what was said on that page. And many times you'll see like a little number 1. We talked about this a little bit last week. This will allow the reader of the document to either 1, locate the document and read more about it, or perhaps the writer of the article wants to explain something. Okay, so there could be a little explanation in the footnote as well. Footnotes cite references from the text, and they also have comments. This is a term that you should know for your final exam. I think that when we look at them, and I'm going to show you some videos, you'll see what that's like. Again, last week we talked about bibliographies, and a bibliography is usually located at the back of the document. It lists the names of the author, okay? It lists the title of the article, the publication, the musical piece, the title of the website and the URL. It is like a little map or a way to get you to that document so that you can show other people more things about that. And again, in your bibliography, you have the author's name, the title, the publisher, the publishing date. If it is an encyclopedia, the volume, again, as I said, the URL. So I think that that will give you enough information as far as what you really need to look at. Let me just find my, okay. So let's talk for review from the very first class that we started, okay? And we talked about how that in the beginning, people didn't have libraries. Remember, they would create clay tablets that they would chisel on and record information, and then they were stacked up on top of each other. But it was very difficult to use these clay tablets because they were heavy and they could break. So later, people began to make, the Egyptians did papyrus, where they took the papyrus plant and hammered it down and made a type of scroll by putting the pieces together. And they would roll it up, and it would be like the first type of paper. And that was easier for them to carry around. And it didn't break if you dropped it. There was one problem with papyrus, though. Insects and animals like to eat it. So it had to be placed in a good area, a safe area where it wasn't destroyed. The person who started the first subscription library was Benjamin Franklin. You know, Benjamin Franklin with the key and electricity and that sort of thing. He did a subscription library. What does that mean? It means that you had to pay to belong to the library. Subscription means it's like buying a subscription to a magazine. You're paying for it. Well, it was this good step in the right direction. It really was. Okay. But what if we want to go to the library and we can't pay the subscription fee? Well, then we can't go. So subscription libraries were really for the rich. Okay. The New York Public Library, and we saw the video about it and how beautiful it was with the lions outside. Okay, Patience and Fortitude are their names. The New York Public Library was founded to provide free library access to anyone who wanted it. So the New York Public Library was a very big thing, and it still is today. All right, and people go for all sorts of reasons, and there's all sorts of materials there. When you go to the library, you don't only see books. There are maps in some libraries, especially like the New York Public Library. And there are pamphlets, and there are historic documents. Remember, we were talking about a draft of the Declaration of Independence. Remember when we talked a little bit about the Library of Congress, how that's the library that Congress uses. It has law books. It has all kinds of collections, all right, recordings, old records that are preserved on vinyl. It has a picture archive, photographs of different things that have taken place. For instance, when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, there were many photographs that were taken. And there are certain ones that are in the Library of Congress, but also in John F. Kennedy's personal library, okay? So libraries can hold all sorts of things, okay? Now, then we moved on past libraries and we started to talk about locating information. So we want to get this information, right? And we have to try and take this much material and get it down to a smaller or workable amount, right? So we're going to use a search. We're going to use search techniques, okay? And a search term is a string of words that are put together to help you locate the material that you want to look at, okay? We talked about Boolean, B-O-O-L-E-A-N. A Boolean search uses the words and, or, and not. Remember, and helps expand the search. Whales and dolphins, okay? Whales or dolphins. But whales and dolphins, not killer whales. Not says, I don't want to know anything about killer whales, but I want to know about all the others. Or whales, not dolphins. Okay, so not makes it smaller. And an or makes the search larger. It includes other things. For instance, you're going to look at collectible cars, okay? But in your mind, you only want to look at Porsches, okay? Collectible cars and Porsches, okay? So, and you can also put in dates, not during whatever, but not makes it limited, and an or makes it larger, expands it, okay? We talked about that C, that letter C, in a circle. Do you remember what that was called? It's called copyright. And we see that when we open a book, we see it on a movie, okay? What does copyright do? Copyright protects the individual works of a person, such as literature, movies, scores, photographs, sculpture, anything that's being made, which means that if we do it and it's our work, someone cannot claim that that work is theirs and make money from it. Sometimes a good example of this is when a musician might sue another musician, take them to court, sue, because they say certain parts of the music the other musician is using actually were from a piece that they created, or certain lyrics, certain words, lyrics are words, okay, that they have in their song have been taken by someone else, maybe just altered a little bit and used in their song. So the copyright protects the person's work and his integrity, right? So we talked about copyright. Can you remember where we talked about where you would file one if you wanted? The Library of Congress. The Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. is the library that takes and holds all the copyrights. Okay. Let's see what else I have for you today. So in copyright infringement is very much like something we spoke about when we do reports, and that is plagiarism. Remember plagiarism? Plagiarism is stealing the ideas of another person and claiming them as your own. And we went through several types of plagiarism. First, we talked about plagiarism being very bad for you because if you're a student, say in a college, the teacher has the right to fail you for the paper. Perhaps if it's really terrible and it's a big project, fail you for the course. Or if it's really bad plagiarism, they can ask you to leave the university. So that's why it's good to know what plagiarism is and how to avoid it. There are several types of plagiarism. One, verbatim. Verbatim means you have copied the document word for word, okay? The second one, patchwork. I don't know if any of you know about patchwork and sewing, but it's take a piece of this fabric, take a piece of that fabric, sew it together. Take another piece, put it here, take another piece, put it here, sew them all together. Patchwork means that you've been doing research and you're cutting and pasting ideas from several different sources to make your paper without providing a citation and giving credit to what where you've gotten this information, okay? So number one is verbatim, word for word. Number two is patchwork, okay? Taking little pieces and putting them together. Number three is one of the most common types of plagiarism, and that's called paraphrasing. Taking other people's words and changing them into your own, but the thoughts are still the same. There isn't original thinking or original research behind that, okay? Paraphrasing. And the last one is global, and that's just taking a whole document, like a whole book or a whole song, and claiming it's yours, all right? So we have verbatim, patchwork, okay, paraphrasing, and global. So I did go over what happens if you plagiarize. It is very serious, so please make sure that you understand that. To avoid plagiarism, you must cite, C-I-T-E, or make a citation, okay? Giving credit to the person whose work or idea you're getting this information from, okay? And all citations include an author's name, the title of the work, the publication date, or the URL. We've gone over that before. Very important. So if I'm asking you on your final exam, what does a person use so they do not plagiarize, or so they are not accused of plagiarism? And one of the choices says a citation. That would be correct, okay? A citation would be what we would have. And so there are three types of citations. Remember, they go for different types of learning. AAA, which is for psychology, education, and health, all right? And then we have one that's probably the most well-known for students, the MLA, and that's for the languages and arts and literature. And then if you're writing papers that have to do with history, sociology, and political science, that's when you're going to use the Chicago method. You don't, if you're doing a citation, you should be using mostly the MLA for most of the things that you're doing. And now we looked at the different types of citations on our videos that you can look at. Remember again that footnotes, where's your foot? It's at the bottom of your body, right? Footnotes. Footnotes are found at the bottom of the page, okay? And again, they can include a comment such as, this speech was taken from Winston Churchill when he addressed the something or other, okay? Or it could also include where that information comes from. So footnote is like your foot. Your foot is on the bottom of your body, and the footnote is on the bottom of the page, okay? We talked about bibliographies, okay? Bibliographies, all right, are the listing of all of the sources that were used. What kind of sources? Did you use the web and you need URLs? Did you use periodicals or magazines? You need the name of the article, the name of the person who wrote it, the date of the magazine, that kind of thing, okay? Did you use some other kind of document, such as a diary, all right? Something like that. Hold on. Let's see if I can get this to stop. Any kind of source that you used is going to be put in the bibliography, all right? Now, when you write a bibliography, we looked at different types. You need to put the author's last name, comma, first name. You need to put the title. You need to put where it was published. Where was it printed? Was it in Chicago? Was it in Paris? Was it in New York? And then you usually put a comma and the copyright date. Now, why is the copyright date important? The copyright date is important because if you're doing historical research using older materials that were created a while ago are fine. But if you're looking at something like immigration in the United States and you want to see what's happening now, you're not going to look at something that was written in 1975. We're going to look at something that was maybe in 2010, or then maybe we'll look at something in 2015, and then we can look at something in 2020, and we can compare the range. Certain things need newer information. So that's why the copyright date is very important. All right, now, let's see what else I have for you. When you write a bibliography, we were just talking about that. The bibliography should have certain things in it. It does not include things like the price of something. It has the name of the book and important information, but nothing else. Why do we include the bibliography? We include it, again, so that if people want to do additional research on your topic, they will be able to do so by looking at the bibliography and seeing where they can go to get that information. All right. Let's see. Make sure. We also talked, and I'm going to go back to the first lecture that we had. We talked about, as students in the NIAC college program, you need to know the name of the NIAC library. Does anyone remember what it's called? It's called the Eastman Library, okay? And you can go to the Eastman Library on the NIAC campus with your student ID card, and you can use the library there free of charge because you pay tuition to go to the school. All right. And when we were talking about the Library of Congress, I did say in my lectures, but I want to review again, that it is located in Washington, D.C. And it's easy to remember because where is Congress? Congress is in Washington, D.C., right? So the Library of Congress is located there as well. Remembering that there are different ways of recording information from early times, but the first way that people recorded information was on clay tablets. As we spoke a few minutes ago, then later in Egypt, they developed the papyrus, which made things a lot easier to transport. So that's basically all that you'll need to know for this exam, okay? If you have any questions, you just need to contact me, but I know that you'll all do well. My class is this library class is the only class that will have a final exam next week. Everyone else will be preparing next week for their midterm tests, the longer classes. But this library class, this research class, was only 1 credit, okay? And it only lasts for 6 weeks. So that's why you had your midterm earlier and your final next week. Again, look at my page and you will find the review sheet, which will help you study. And I think if you just go over this lecture one more time, you should do very well. So it was a pleasure to teach you once again. I enjoy these classes with you. And I want to let you know that I will be filling in next week for your professor, Professor Barbara Zim, because she is ill. And I will do the review for you for your midterm exam for her class. And I will make up a review sheet for you as well. So next week, you won't see me anymore in this class, but you'll see me in as a substitute for Professor Zim. And then you'll see me again in the history class. So have a really good week. do a little studying, and I'll see you in my history class. Have a great week. Bye.